We're in the kitchen with Lisa and Brenda. This is real people making
filmed.
real food.
Like we said we didn't want to be filmed.
What do you have in your hand there, Lisa?
We have whole peeled tomatoes.
Mm-hmm.
So, step one, we're making Marcella Hazan's tomato sauce. It's just very simple.
Marcella Hazan.
Yes, whole peeled tomatoes.
And who's he?
It is a she.
Oh,
A
okay.
famous Italian cook who is no longer with us.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, you just dump the juice out and then dice up the whole tomatoes. And as the sauce cooks, it will break down and you can kind of smash it up with your fork or, spoon.
Temperature on about halfway there.
Well, I'm going to start it off at a medium high. And then once you get it to a simmer, we're just going to turn it down low. And it's going to simmer for 45 minutes or longer. So, step one. 5 tablespoons of butter in the pan. Step 2. An onion cut in half in the pan.
Whole?
Whole.
You don't have to cut it up. Okay.
Nope. Step 3. Generous amount of salt to get started.
Any particular kind of salt?
Kosher.
Kosher.
And that's it.
And how long do you let that simmer for?
At least 45 minutes.
Okay, so we'll come back in 45 minutes.
Yes, and then you just recheck it for your salt and you remove your onions. And that is it. So
Now that the sauce is simmering, what's going on over here, Brenda?
We are going to make potato gnocchi.
Potato
Gnocchi.
gnocchi.
Yes. So what we did was boiled 2 to 3 russet potatoes, or approximately 1.5 pounds, for about 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm,
You
20
let them
minutes.
cool to the point where you can handle them. And now we're going to peel them. They may or may not have to cool anymore because they sat for so long. And then we will continue the process.
And Marcella Hazan says that the sauce that we're making is unsurpassed with potato gnocchi. It's just the best pairing.
And we did not plan that.
It was just
It was in the
destined.
stars. Just like the pantry collapsing. It was destiny.
The pantry collapsing. What happened?
Brenda did
An
something.
act of God.
An act of God. The shelving.
Yeah, I
the
think it
shelving
was the
fell.
shelving.
I think it
fell.
was physics and gravity.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
So
We are in the kitchen with Lisa and Brenda. This is real people, as you can tell, making real food.
Yeah, I think these are cool enough to handle.
Yeah.
And press through.
obviously, yeah.
Okay, next what we're going to do is we're going to pass these potatoes through a very fine mesh strainer, right? To, in lieu of a potato ricer, because we don't have one. Right?
Right.
Right.
Would it be better to go through a colander or you need it?
I did the strainer.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
When I did mine, yeah, because you want them
Fine.
pulverized.
Fine. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, so the next step is to pass the potato through a fine mesh strainer. So you have this pillowy, fluffy potato, whatever you want to call it. So we're going to do this with all 3 potatoes.
And I see you're using your hand for this.
That's correct. You can make sure you get all the little potato through there.
And what happens after this?
After this, we mix the potatoes with flour and salt, and then we begin making the little gnocchis. After we mix it all together and make a dough. It's like a potato pasta almost.
And now we're on to the next step. This fluffy russet potatoes that went through a strainer.
Yep. Okay, so I almost put in a tablespoon of salt, and we need a teaspoon. All right. So next is a teaspoon of salt and a cup and a half of flour.
There's 1 cup, carefully measured. And there's the half a cup.
Okay, Lisa, if you want to start mixing that around just to get it to a large crumble.
Okay.
And then we're going to use our hands after that.
Don't you need the flour to flour the...
Yeah, I just put it on whatever.
Okay.
Give us room. Oh, looks good.
Meanwhile, the sauce is simmering over there with its onions and butter.
It smells delicious. Okay, now we want to use our hands and press the dough together until it becomes coherent.
Okay. You want me to do that?
Go for it.
So much of this recipe is, you could say, hands-on.
Yeah, I would say that too.
Look at it forming. And you have no eggs involved with this recipe, is
That's
that
correct.
correct? That's interesting.
Actually, we need to do the next step on a wooden surface, Lisa.
Okay.
So I will set up the workspace. And is it coherent? So yep, I'd stop.
Okay.
We have coherency. Coherency has been achieved. Next, Lisa will take this
You want me to just bring it
potato
over?
Yep.
Okay.
over to the wooden,
To a wooden floured surface. Okay.
next to where the sauce is.
And we're going to
Simmering.
knead it. But we don't want to over knead that it becomes chewy.
So you don't add anything to it at this. You don't add a little water to it, or
Nope.
And she's using the palm of her hand as she kneads.
I think this might. Let me just recheck my instructions.
Doesn't that look beautiful, ladies and gentlemen? And over here is the sauce.
Would you call that homogeneous and smooth?
Yes.
Okay.
Does it rust?
Nope. Do you have a dough? Or yeah. So next week, divide this into 4.
Now notice that Lisa knew exactly what that was. Do you have a dough? It was a noise, and Lisa didn't even bother to ask what that meant.
We don't always have to speak.
Yeah. Mark and I would do that too.
So that is a...
This is a... See how that went?
Cut it.
Sorry, I can't keep them.
Okay, now you had them in quarters and then you're rolling it into a cigar like.
That's correct. And you want the thickness to be between a 1/2 inch and 3/4 of an inch. Is that what I said?
Yep.
We're getting there.
I noticed we took the elongated potato and we made little balls out of it.
That's correct. So what Lisa's doing now is creating the ridges that is indicative of gnocchi, because what that does, it helps hold the sauce.
Mm.
And we have quite a few over here that we already did in various.
Now is that flour?
That's just a little flour. That looks good, Lisa. Oops, sorry. So of course we repeat the process with the last two.
And you're going to roll it out into like a cigar like.
Yep. Do it in 1-inch segments, and then make your ridges. Yep.
Aren't they beautiful? In the kitchen with Lisa and Brenda. Real people making real food. What are we doing here, Brenda?
Okay, well, we need to test our gnocchi for doneness. So we're going to do a test, and we're going to boil them for about 5 to 8 minutes. And what they'll do is they will float if they're done. And then we'll test them to see if we like the texture. Somebody did you?
I'll put 3 out so we can all test it.
Now Lisa is taking the gnocchi out of the boiling water at the 5-minute mark. We have them over here to test out.
Alright, we're all going to test one.
Hot. So we decided to let the gnocchi go in for 8 minutes. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
They weren't to your liking after 5.
No, I didn't say that. I just want to see the difference.
Yeah.
By testing.
Yep.
Yes.
15 seconds.
And here's the dog.
Patiently waiting for one to floor. Right? Alright, well, it's dinner time. So it's time to drop the gnocchi into the water. And we'll let these boil for 6 1/2 minutes.
And the sauce is ready to go.
We are having, for the very first time, fresh lettuce out of our garden. And I made a simple vinaigrette for on top. It is olive oil, white wine vinegar, garlic, a little Dijon mustard, salt and pepper, and an egg yolk. So very yummy.
Delicious. And here we have the gnocchi soaking in the sauce for several minutes. And it'll soon be ready to dish out, or as they say, plate. It'll be ready to plate. Along with the garden salad and fresh strawberries. Should be delicious. And there we have it. Fresh parsley on top of the gnocchi with fresh garden salad with Lisa's homemade dressing. Looks delicious. This is In the Kitchen with Lisa and Brenda. Real people. Real people making real food. Say goodnight, ladies.
Good night. Bon appetit.
Bon appetit, yes.
Bon appetit!
Thanks, Julia.